But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. Then we must be bold.
Forgive a sinner and smile at a homely girl. I mean, think of that. All this relates. All of it. The thrill of the chase. Happy birthday, Forrest Fenn. Say hey to him in the chat. Happy birthday, Forrest. Ring his bell. He rang my bell. He rang your bell too. But I just think here today on Forrest's birthday, it's appropriate to talk about being in the wood and to talk about some other key dates in history. And there may be some difficult conversations or things that come up along the way. And we should, remember this is about honoring Forrest's birthday and whatever the message was he was trying to send to people, because it's obvious not everybody knows yet. A lot of people do know, I guess. But the world's waiting for a huge message, I feel. He said something ends it, Tim. Something ends it. And if you're it, player in a game, and you wind up in the wood, it could be the stand, it could be the casket. In the wood. Got me thinking Dallas. All the crazy stuff that Dallas has ties to it. And, Dallas, so that the treasure was sold at Heritage in Dallas. And then we had Jackie Kennedy was in some of Forrest's stories. And that was about Dallas. And he talked about Texans a lot. I mean, hell, he was a Texan himself, right? He was born in Temple, Texas. And Lyndon B. Johnson's in the poem. So I got to thinking, I was like, today's Forrest's birthday, and it's definitely a day to be celebrated. And this is probably going to be the difficult part of the conversation here. But he passed away not too far after his birthday. Passed away on September 7th. And some people say that it was intentional, and some people say that it was natural causes. And who am I to control the narrative? I wasn't there. So I'm not going to make any kind of speculation on it here about it or not. But what I did do is I went back and I wanted to see if I could put together some, I don't know, just like significant, what's significant about September 7th? You ever thought about that? You ever thought about like, hey man, all these things happen on different days, like the chase was announced as over on, or the treasure chest was announced as found on June 6th. And, if you go back and you look at history, there's lots of things that have happened on June 6th. That was also my father's birthday, which is a weird one. But, and then now if you look at maybe September 7th, because of, what Forrest, he passed away, there's a lot of things that happened on September 7th. you know. So back to that story I was telling you about Dallas and LBJ and historic events and all that. You know, not too far down in the poem, right past talking about being in the wood. It's one that everybody talks about getting title to the gold. Title to the gold. He said, I give you title to the gold. And then that Dallas sparked more story for me. More questions probably than anything. And so I looked up Title II. Title II is pretty much part of a huge law that was enacted back in 1964, right after President Kennedy was assassinated. I think of that. If the gold is not really the gold, and the gold is really title, maybe, just maybe, somebody else might be in line for a new whooping from the grave, from Forrest Fenn's grave. Title II. So before I get into Title II, it just got me thinking about like all the major events that happened. You ever sat back to think? Now let's literally go back and think. You know, I'm not going to go back to the 30s when Fenn was born, because we read about most of his time up until about his 20s, and that was when he went in the military. So let's pick it up about 1950. You know, and that's when the Korean War began. And then in 54, the Supreme Court, you know, desegregated the schools. 55, you had Rosa Parks. You know, 57, you had the Little Rock Intergate, the Central High School. 58, NASA was established. In 60, John Kennedy was elected president. 61 was the Bay of Pigs. 62 was the Cuban Missile Crisis. 63, Kennedy was assassinated. And then they had a civil rights march on Washington. And then in 64, they had the Civil Rights Act was signed into law. And that's pretty much why I'm sitting here even telling us about this all right now, is because Title II, Title to the gold. I'm not trying to give you an American history lesson. I'm just giving you a different perspective at what Forrest might have been writing about in his poem. He could have been telling us and sharing this stuff with us and saying, look, read the poem, think about it, read my book, go back and study each word, and then try to marry it to a map. These are all things that he said to us. And these are all events that are taking place today. These events led up to today and what we're experiencing on his 93rd birthday. Is this why he created the chase? And what happened from 64? Watts riots. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. Robert F. Kennedy was assassinated, you know, and he was like the head attorney of the America. I mean, the attorney general, think about that. The president and the attorney general, family members. And then it goes on. But Title II, could Title II be what led us to here? And what was he saying in that? Was he saying we should look at the Kennedy assassination more by pointing out stories with Jackie? Was he? Was he telling us things that he couldn't have told us? Is he taking us back in time? That's what a lot of people say this is about. This Forrest is taking us back in time to teach us lessons. You got to consider all of this. I believe it's what he wanted.